back. It is Bleav in Chargers with the incomparable Neal. Matt Money Smith here. Apologies for missing last week. But, times are crazy. We're moving around the country. Lo, you can tell, is in a hotel. A couple weeks ago, I was in a hotel. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lo, but I know my logos. I know what that logo in Canton looks like. What's going on with that Hall of Fame polo you're wearing? It should come with a freaking bust is what it should come with your head. But what's going on?
Money, I'm promoting, baby. I'm promoting. I said, let's make fullbacks great again. And I might as well come on the show, our show, and say, put Lowe in the Hall of Fame. Let's do it. But no, it's just a shirt that I got when I went back there for LT's induction. So I keep this shirt close to me. So it was meant a lot being able to introduce him. And hey, we got another Charger heading in this year, the great Antonio Gates.
That's right. Your former teammate. And look, if I were the curator of the National Football League's Hall of Fame in Canton, number one, I'd induct Lowe immediately. That would just be like executive order. That's what I would do.
First day, signing.
Exactly. First day, executive order. And then what I would do is if this is where that beautiful bulbous round head of LT's is, I'm going to mount your beautiful bowling ball head right in front of them. Like that's where you're going to be placed, just kind of offset and right in front of them. And that way, the story of LaDainian Tomlinson cannot be told without the story of Lorenzo Neal.
Money, I absolutely love it. I was at the Super Bowl this year down in Nolans, and it's Randy Moose Johnson, and we all talking, and Mike Allstott and all the guys, and we're all lockstep, and everyone's saying, hey, look, let someone in. Look at Mike Allstott, what he did for his best running fullback in the league. If you think about who was one of the best pass catchers, Larry Centers. You think about Moose Johnson, what he did for the great Emmitt Smith. Sam Gash. So there's some guys that are out there, Tommy Rathman, what they did. So I just think, and these guys, all of us think that there definitely should be one of those fullbacks of that era because, every team carried a fullback. Now you can't hardly find one.
No, you can. I mean, we got one. He's a defensive tackle. It's Scott Matlock who's been doing the fullback duties. But no doubt, make fullbacks great again is what we're all about here. And we got the right head coach in Los Angeles, that's for sure, with Jim Harbaugh, and a guy that is all about the fullback, is all about running gap and power and making sure that thing gets right. And I think that's probably a good place for us to jump off, Low. And, they had the owners' meetings, and Coach did about a 30-minute presser. Rule number one, and obviously I can't do it because I'm clocking in at all of 155 pounds, but I'd bring Low with me to do it, to be my muscle. It's got to be infuriating for our beat reporters who do such a good job covering this team to get a 30-minute sit-down with Coach Harbaugh, and 20 minutes of it is Michigan, is where his former players are. You got this idiot from the Vikings is peppering him with 3 or 4 questions about J.J. McCarthy. You got someone from the Detroit paper peppering him with questions about his quarterback's coach who's been in trouble. He's not even there. He's 2 years removed. He's got 5 questions about University of Michigan. And then some clown from the Broncos is asking him for his evaluation of Bo Nix. It's like, hey, man, this is the Chargers head coach answering questions about the Chargers. And God bless Daniel Popper from The Athletic for just cutting these people off time after time and getting his questions in there about free agency and about moving forward. And you know where he started, Low, and I'll flip it to you with this. Mekhi Becton, he echoed what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. He's like, you know what that right side of that line is going to look like? It's like when you got Joe Alt and Mekhi Becton, and it's just building off what we talked about and what coach wants to present to opposing defenses and what it means, when they're getting off the bus with Mekhi Becton and Joe Alt on the right side of that line.
Yeah, it's like, oh, boy, you better pack your lunch today because it's going to be an all day. That's what this is about. When you meet the Chargers, and that's what Harbaugh wants to be. That's what he was at Michigan. That's what he was with the Niners, with Frank Gore and that offensive line with Yapati and all those guys. It was pack your lunch because we're coming down the hey diddle diddle. It's going to be us coming down the middle. That's the way he builds. That's the way he likes to build teams, and he likes to build from the middle. Think about baseball. When you're thinking about a good baseball team, you build from middle out. You get a good center, you get a good catcher, you get a good pitcher, you build a good center field. You build middle out. Look at football. You get a good center, you get a quarterback, you build guards, tackles, and look what the Chargers have done. They have built a pretty good offensive line up front. An offensive line that we talked about, some of the guards could be leaky. We've had some issues at the center. But what they do, they went out here and said, let's solidify it. And we still have some pretty good backups. Guys are going to be fighting for position, but we got more competitive. That's what they wanted to do, was get more competitive up front. and they did that.
Yeah, and I'd be, I do want to acknowledge, because you said it, be strong up the middle, catcher, shortstop, second base, center field. I would love to acknowledge, because I do take some incoming here from our friends in San Diego for being a Dodger guy. I'm a big Dodger guy, and I have a lot of friends, though, that are Padre fans. And as a matter of fact, I was chatting with Daniel Jeremiah, who's a big Padre guy. It's funny that that's our booth, right? He is a huge Padre guy, and I'm a big Dodger guy. And he said, you know what, man? Typical Padres. I'm trying to enjoy this 6-0 start, and all I got to do is stare at the freaking 7-0 Dodgers, so I can't even enjoy it. I'm like, hey, man, welcome to the season,
they're
man.
Amazing, right? They're amazing. You watch the Dodgers the other night opening day. It's just like you watch them. They go up by 2. You hit a home run. What's his name?
Ohtani.
Ohtani. He hits the bomb, but they need that every bit of it, because in the next inning, the team comes up score, but they just close. It's like never under pressure. They get better every year. What the hell is going on with that Dodger freaking organization?
It's fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think our friends down south, Padres got a really good team, and it's going to make for, I think, another great summer and another great postseason. But this is Bleav in Chargers, and our friends at Bet Online want you to know that the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action is Bet Online. We got the Final Four. It's coming up. All 1 seed's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and Bet Online has got all kinds of ways to stay in on the action. Latest odds, news, scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. That's the coolest thing about Bet Online, as a matter of fact. You see something, you feel like you got an idea of what's going to happen. Get in there, even though the game's already started. It's the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to, we were just talking about it, Major League Baseball, NHL with the playoffs coming up, UFC, even the Kentucky Derby. And the NFL season futures now posted for you to bet in between games. Head on over to the Bet Online Casino. All the top Vegas-style games, poker, live casino, all that stuff happening at Bet Online. The game starts here. But getting back to what you were talking about, Lo, because that was, I thought the biggest thing, there were a couple things, but really the biggest thing to come out of Jim Harbaugh's conversation at the owners' meetings was, I felt like after they re-signed Bradley Bozeman and then they sign Andre James from the Raiders, it's like, okay, here's our competition at center. Zion's going to settle in at left guard. That's not the case. Harbaugh reiterated, we're excited to get a look at Zion at center. Like and then he was even asked a follow-up, like, well, Andre James has never played left guard, though, and what about Bozeman? And he's like, just because the guy's never done it doesn't mean he can't do it. He goes, we think these guys all have flexibility. And so that I thought was an interesting sort of revelation that, just because we signed a guy who started the last 60 games at center from the Raiders, and just because we brought back the guy that started every single game at center for us, Bradley Bozeman does not mean, and Andre James and Bradley Bozeman does not mean that Zion is not going to get a look, and he very well can end up being what we think is our best option there. I found that to be incredibly interesting considering those 2 signings they made.
Yeah, I remember a great center that I used to love plays, Donnie Dawson. Remember Dawson played with the Steelers?
Yeah.
Just quick, athletic, move very well. Sometimes you want that athletic guard because sometimes you have the run scheme. You want this guard to get out there. And that's what they're looking at Zion, saying, hey, the guy's very smart, got a high IQ, very athletic. You're moving around. But also, just like we talked about, now you just put more depth in those positions. You got more depth at center. Now you more depth at guard. So you have big bodies, guys that are athletic. So, and Money, name me a year that a guy hasn't went down up front. You're in the trenches. That's where all the battles take place. So you're going to have some injuries. A guy, hopefully not a career-ending, not a year-ending, season-ending injury, but you're going to have some injuries. Guys going to get nicked up, bruised, sit out a week or 2. It happens to every team. So you better have some depth because you don't know how good your backup is until you need him. And I'm telling you right now, that's what Harbaugh, he's planning, because why? They play physical. They play downhill. They want to go out and maul people. If you're going to play that way, you have to be saying, look, if someone goes down, we have to keep our playing style. And that's what the Harbaugh's doing in this organization.
Yeah, the other thing you pointed out by sharing that was just positional flexibility and how and that is something that we know is incredibly important to this team, that they value that incredibly. And so, as my gears start turning, as he's talking about, it gives us an opportunity. If, God forbid, somebody gets hurt, you can push Zion there. Even if he starts at left guard, at least he gets the reps and we know he can do it. And if it's Andre James, then maybe it's Zion if he's second in line, or Bose, or how they do that. Or if Zion goes down, now we can kick James out to left guard. And then of course we know Trey, who's looks like he's going to stick, even though he's got that $9 million price tag. He's going to stay here because he's so valuable. He can play either tackle, he can play either guard. And he even mentioned Pitt after he was reminded, that he did not mention him when it came to, well, who's in line to start that at left guard if Zion takes center. He mentioned Bozeman, he mentioned James, and then someone said, what about Pip? He's like, oh, Pip would be number one, actually. He'd be that. So what that got me thinking is, if Gray Zabel is sitting there at 22, the North Dakota State tackle, it's a guy who plays all 5 positions. If he's sitting there, and he lit it up at the Senior Bowl, man, and I feel like if that dude's sitting there at 22, just like they took Joe Alt at 5, all you folks that are getting excited about that tight end, Colston Loveland, or that running back, Amari and Hampton, or that wide receiver, if Tet McMillan slides, I would not be surprised because of how valuable a guy like that would be, who did not lose a single rep in practice at the Senior Bowl, who has ultimate 5-position flexibility. To me, that is just, you would have Joe Ortiz, being like, well, we got an X receiver sitting here, and you just have Harbaugh in the corner going, just no, this is this is it, man. This is what we want, is a guy that can play all 5. Just the way that he dug into why Zion was still being considered and why they signed these guys. And to me, that just, there's a way to connect those two things.
Wow, no question. Oh my God, he would be salivating in the corner, and I'll be sitting there watching that number 22 pick to say, okay, is he there? Because you're absolutely right. If you have a guy that can play at a high level, all 5 positions, money, you take him. And the kind of team that Harbaugh's building, what he wants to do. Why would you not? It's going to be interesting to see. I hope that scenario works, that he's there, and what Harbaugh does, because they can use a back, they can use a wideout, they can use an interior lineman at the 3 technique. So there's so many different holes that they can plug, but it'd just be interesting to see which way Harbaugh thinks.
Yeah, just to me, it's what they attacked in free agency, right? It's where they spent the most money, a 2-year, $20+ million deal on Mekhi Becton. And it's where they invested last year with their number 5 overall pick. It's what was really their undoing in the game against Houston. The defense was playing lights out in the first half, and they just could not protect. Now, granted, Pip was out of that game. Sawyer was in. He had a real rough go, but that entire interior offensive line is ultimately, that was the fuse, that was lit, that started their unraveling, that helped lead to those 4 interceptions. So it would make sense that that's something that they would continue to attack to ensure it never happens again.
Yeah, and I think when you looked at Houston, it like you said, just got barraged, and especially when he went back to 5 steps, it was just, okay, 1, 2, 3, they're in. So I think you need, when you're in that situation, money, and this as well as anyone, you look at those teams that really need something, a quarterback blanket that's going to save the quarterback. That's a great tight end that can beat press coverage right now. That's when a guy that you said, okay, boom, he's just too physical for a safety. He's too fast for a tight end. We know that 1,000, 1,002, the ball's got to come out. You have to have a tight end that's agile, mobile, that's strong enough, physical enough that can break that. And now he's there. You have to have a slot receiver's got to win right now, because you understand when you got not 1, but 2 and 3 guys up front, a la a team that won the Super Bowl, they're Philadelphia Eagles, you got to win right now at those positions, because your quarterback, it's 1,000, 1, 2, 3, and they're there in your face. So you do have to make sure. That's what Sanji's, the receiver coach, got to do a great job of saying, hey, we got to beat man coverage. We got to beat press right now, because we know there are some teams in this league that's going to be a big challenge to stop them up front. We can't win man to man. We have to say, hey, look, we got to win with the ball. And that's why I think a tight end is going to be big. Dissel did a great job, but you're going to have to find somebody that can win right now, money.
Yeah, and I think, and look, for people that, are looking at Zion and saying, all right, well, you're already considering moving him to center, had a little bit of a rough go last year. You're really going to go down this road again and take a guard in the first round when there's so much, when oftentimes you can find that interior lineman in the second round. Well, remember, what I think they forget to kind of remember is, Zion was an elite guard prospect, elite. The strength, the smarts, the production at Boston College, the athletic testing was off the charts. That's the kind of guy that you take in the first round, and now, they're still trying to get that all to connect, but everything was there. Everything connected. And that's why they took him. And that's why it was, when you had the grades from all the people that do that at the end of the day, it's like, oh, yeah. Hey, man, that's an A pick. You got to protect your guy, Justin Herbert. You got Rashawn Slater. Now you got the guard right next to him. You got Corey Linsley at center. Yes, this is how you build a winning organization and a winning team. So, yeah, while Zion didn't work out, that's the difference now between someone that we talked about a lot out of Alabama and Tyler Booker. And we were talking about the leadership qualities and how there was a lot of people and this was before the testing happened on the field when it just did not go well for him. Like Tyler Booker's probably the guy that we were talking about at 22 that now it's like, okay, if he's available in the second round and you trade down because he's just a guard. He's not Gray Zabel, center, guard, tackle, can play all five. Like Gray Zabel's the kind of guy that you do take with the 22 overall pick. If he makes it to you, I'd be very surprised if he makes it to him because of how valuable offensive line is, even interior line, and just all those boxes that he checks. So you can make the connection with Zion and why they took him at 17 and why they would take Gray Zabel at 22, because it is an interior lineman that checks every box and how valuable those guys are. We talked about it. I can't say it enough. Freaking Aaron Banks got $77 million. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so if you can get that in a cost control situation for the next 6 years, 5 years plus the franchise at that offensive line, then yeah, you're going to take it. And that's kind of where that thought process comes in, that he'd be the guy that I would say is the one guy that they would take on the offensive line if he's available at 22.
Question for you too, Money. So say with that, you look at the center position, athletic position. Now Zion can get back, and you don't have sometimes now you get to help more. Guard to center, boom, you snap the ball. You already got a guy on the guard, boom, you can go over and help. You can help either side. You can play in no man's land, that guard center position at times, athletic position, but you get to go ahead and crush people, knock guys out because they don't see you, they're engaged. So that center, very athletic, can do a lot of different things. But that's also make Zion now on a one-year deal, and you say, hey, look, if my guy's there at 22, now he said, can I afford? I just got ready to play my outside tackle. I got to pay the big fella. He's going to eat. He's going to, it's going to be about 30 million or plus more maybe. So now, am I going to be able to afford to play Zion 20-something, 25?
Right.
Are we going to be able to pay both two interior linemen close to near 30 million apiece? The average is going to be at least 28 for both these two together. So now if you go ahead and pick, like you're saying, at 22, it's starting to make more sense. And now you have a guy that can play guard, center, but now you got a guy to play guard, center, and tackle. And I got him now for the control for the next 6 years, as opposed to Zion getting ready to be a free agent and going to be very, very expensive. Yeah,
because I cannot envision them picking up that 5th-year option, because remember, it doesn't, the way the franchise tag or the 5th-year option works is, I guess, could I see it? No, I just can't see it, because it's like the franchise tag is offensive line. Like Trey Smith got franchised by the Chiefs for $26 million instead of the average for guards. It's the average for offensive line. So you bring the tackles into play on that. And so that's where it gets a little tricky. I can probably look up what
that's why you're looking at it. That's why we're looking at Money. That's why I agree. First, I was like, man, now I'll go with the tight end. Guy, you need to get a release. I need something, or interior lineman. But then when you think about it financially and economically, you went out and did some things.
Zion would be, his 5th year, if they pick it up, would be $17.5 million. And they just paid Mekhi Becton $10 million for this year. So that's a pretty hefty number. That's a big one. A lot of them have already been picked up. He's one of, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 of the 31 picks. Because there was a pick forfeited that year in that 2022 class. 12 of the 31 that haven't been picked up yet. And that's 17.5 is a big chunk. Now they have some time to figure it out. But
if you pick 22 and you pick the kid that you're talking about, then guess what?
Right.
Then it makes it expensive. But if you don't pick him, then you got to eat that 7. You're gonna have to go ahead and bring him back at 17 million. Because what are you gonna do? Let him walk out the door? And what do you have? So I think that if you go and like you're alluding to saying, if this guy's there at 22, then I actually take him, because now I'm in a situation that I say, if Zion leaves, I got a guy that's just as good, that can go out and play, that can play all 5 positions. So I think it's going to be predicated what happens at 22, no question.
Yeah, I can't imagine because they have to do it by May 1st. And so I just can't, I can't see that based on play. It's hard to envision. I'd love it for Zion. He's an awesome guy. Love seeing his mom comes to every single game. She's one of my favorite people to
Yeah.
see on the road. I would love to see it for him. Things just go incredible in April, or whatever, or May. But it's just, I think it's a great point, Lo, because that helps protect you. But look, you can still decline it and then bring him back. He loves it here, loves Justin, loves the offensive line. And I think he'd understand, I get it. It's hard for the team to pick up 17-5 based on what I've done for my first 4 years here. And you get to the market and then you can kind of figure this thing out if things go really well at center, and he can end up making even more money. And you're like, hey, man, we did you a favor. Instead of making 17-5, hey, congratulations, you earned it. We're going to give you a boost. But it's a great point. You can only sink so much into a position group before, look at the Chiefs, right? They just did it. They did not want to lose Trey Smith to free agency, knowing, what he was going to end up getting out there that they could not afford. And so they traded Joe Thuney. They're like, we can't keep everybody. And we're going to have to get rid of arguably the best player on their offensive line, and Thuney, the most consistent guy on their offensive line, who's, in his early 30s, in order to keep the guy in his mid-20s, because you can't sink all of that money into one position group. It's just you've got to find a way to be cost effective at a couple of the positions. And I think that's kind of, what you're speaking to, and why it wouldn't be a surprise but I think it's got to be the right player. That's the thing. It's got to be the right player that's available at 22. And I think outside of Grace Abel, I don't think you're talking about any other offensive lineman in this group. I think then you probably get yourself to the defensive line. Before I get to that, though, a little more draft stuff because I've spent a lot of time watching players all weekend long. My wife was like, what are you doing? I'm like,
I'm not doing my job.
I go through the comments on YouTube and everybody's asking about this player. And then I've gotten pretty deep, but now I'm getting even deeper and deeper and deeper into a couple of the position groups that I know are certainly some that they're going to attack. Interior defensive lineman, tight end, interior offensive line, I spent some time with. Running back, I spent some time with as well. But I'm going to start with this, Lo. You mentioned, pack your lunch. Here we come. Kind of give me an idea of what you think defenses see when they see an offensive line, that we think is going to be great with the addition of Becton and bringing back Slater and Alt in his second year. And if this thing works out with Zion, or if they draft that left guard to go with Andre James or something at center. And the running back is Najee. And Najee's never been that explosive back. He's been sort of that career numbers, 3.9 yards. Last year averaged over 4. His first year, he was a Pro Bowler, had over 1,200 yards, had quite a few receptions, but he's not that explosive guy, right? He's not the guy that you got to worry about, oh no, he got through 2 levels and now he's gone. That's just not what he is. So what's the vibe of a defense when you see someone that is going to be out there, is a load to bring down, but doesn't have that sort of top end breakaway element to his game? How does a defense play against that?
I think those defenses, they say, let's win on first and second down, because we know the Chargers, they want to win on first and second down and getting third and short, third and manageable. So we know what they are. The Chargers, they don't have necessarily a game changer on offense as far as running back. Meaning, it's 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Your LT, game changer. Saquon Barkley, he's not a chain mover. He's a game changer. There's certain backs in this league that are game changers, and there's chain movers. Najee is that guy that's just a chain mover. He's 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust. So the defense coming and saying, look, guys, we got to try to win on first and second down. We know what they want to do. They want to pick up 3 yards, 4 yards on first down. If they pick up 3 to 4 yards on first down, guess what, guys? They're going to run it again, because now they're in 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3. And guess what, guys? They can line up and still run the ball, because now they're in 3rd and 2 or 3. They can run our pass. Now we have to play some man. We got to put an extra guy in the box. They can beat us in play action. So we give them too many options. So that's what they think. They say, look, the discharger team, we know who Harbaugh. First thing you do when you're a team, you think about the head coach. What is the head coach like? When you knew the Patriots, what do you think about Belichick? Not going to make a lot of mistakes, going to be disciplined. They're going to beat you with discipline. They're going to just keep coming after you. When you think about Harbaugh, you think about a play action team, but you think about a team that's tough. they're going to keep hitting you. It's not that the linemen are necessarily dominant, but when a guy's on you, here comes another guy. Here comes another guy. Boom, Joe Alt, come in and finish off.
Right.
So they're going to double team, triple team. And you're just like, man, these guys are going to hit you on every single game. You better be ready to play football when you play against the Chargers, because they're going to hit you on every level and make you play for 4 quarters. That's what happens when defenses see the Chargers. They come in, it's like, hey, they're tough. Not only, but they're tough, but the mindset. Dude, bro, just be ready. You better stay low because another guy's going to hit you. You think you got one that, but here comes another. That's what the Chargers are. That's who they are. So that's what defenses think when they see the Chargers. They're like, this is going to be a physical game today.
So it's the idea of the Najee signing is 1, availability, 2, physicality, 3, it's not necessarily about the explosive. It's about winning on first and second down. It's about getting 4. Now we're in 3rd and 2, and we got Justin Herbert back here. And so even though you don't have a defense that's got to worry about the Saquon Barkley, he gets through that hole and we are screwed, it's more about just the long play and then the play action on first down or something that you can now go to.
And it wears you out. And that's
right.
The thing, Money. So when you look down, it's boom. You throw a play action on first down, you picked up 6 yards. Second down, you come back and pick up 3. Now you're 3rd and 1. Now, boom, you do it again. The second time, now it's first down and 10. You picked up 4. You picked up 3. Boom, you do it again. What happens to the defense? They're rotating guys coming in and out. And it's just that methodically getting your butt kicked. And it's just, you start to breathe. You start to look down. Come on, guys, make a play. But they're just nicking you, cutting you. And you're just like, you start getting so frustrated. So what do? A guy get out of gap control. He's trying to make a play to make it 1st and now 2nd and 12 or 2nd and 3rd. So they get out of gap. I got to get up the field. This guy's there beating me. So I'm going to shoot this gap. I'm going to go try to make a play in the backfield. That's what happens. Now you start not playing your technique. You start guessing. And that's when Najee breaks off a 15 or 20 right. or sometimes those 30-yard runs.
Yeah, and I think that's where you can find that complement in the draft, just like the Steelers had with Jaylen Warren, and he had that explosive element, and Najee's going to beat the snot out of you, and then Jalen's going to come in and he's going to be that explosive element that can get you the old thunder and lightning, that everybody likes to talk about. So that's, in terms of running backs, I suppose I could see him taking Amari and Hampton at 22 if he were there. I think he is the, I think, but beyond that, you could probably make a case for TreVeyon Henderson and how well he would fit. Like he would fit like a glove with Najee Harris, but that'd be more of a situation where I think there's a team that wants to trade up. Like best case scenario now, in listening to all the people around the draft, is that Jackson Dart is making noise as a 3rd quarterback that's going to get drafted in the 1st round. And so if, the problem is that a lot of those teams that are right ahead of the Chargers, particularly the Steelers that are right there ahead of them, 1 pick, they obviously need a quarterback. So I think teams would want to trade up ahead of them if they're going to get Dart. But if for some reason he slips past, let's say they sign Aaron Rodgers and they don't feel like they got to take Dart or something, and he does slip past them, I could see, if the Giants pass on Shedeur and take Travis Hunter at number 3, if the Browns pass on Shedeur and take, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, then I could see one of those teams that has that 1st pick in the 2nd round popping up to 22 if Dart's there. So and I bring that up because then you would have that 1st pick in the 2nd round. And that's where like the TreVeyon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins starts to make sense. Otherwise, I think you're talking about that 3rd round back. You mentioned, I don't know why people are trying to compare him to Mike Allstott. He looks nothing like Mike Allstott. He's 5'9.5", 219 pounds, but Cam Skattebo from Arizona State, so then you kind of start talking about him and being a very Jim Harbaugh-like back. And then if you want to get into the 4th round, you can start talking about those home run hitters like Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, who's just an absolute freaking keg of dynamite every time he touches the ball, that's just had some injury issues, some fumbling issues. And those are the guys that kind of get pushed down. Like, don't forget, Bucky Irving was drafted in the 4th round, man. And that guy is a 1st round talent from, who just lit up. He is as big a reason why Tampa had the season they had last year. So you can find those guys. Trevor Etienne from Georgia, there's just a number of those dudes that you can find deeper in the draft, I think, that would preclude them from taking Hampton at 22 if he were there. I think. Personally, I think. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did, but to me, so like here's what I'm getting at. I'm a mess today, man. I'm just all over the place.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
What I like, to me, I think I have this visual of a group of players that I could see sitting there at 22. And I'm like, all right, if it's Gray Zabel, I could see him taking him. If it's Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, no brainer, I could see them taking him. If it's the defensive tackle, like, this is the interesting one for me. And Lo, I want you to do this, man. I want you to look up, if you haven't already, you may have. Man, I am infatuated with Walter Nolan. Infatuated with him. Number 1 overall prospect in his high school class, gets a boatload of money to go to Texas A&M, leaves Texas A&M to go to Ole Miss. When you watch this guy's tape, it's so fun. I mean, it is so much fun to watch this interior defensive tackle, man. He is lifting guards and throwing them into quarterbacks. He is an absolute game wrecker. And all these people are talking Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon. And I'm like, dude, I get it. Kenneth Grant, double. Derek Harmon, double. Walter Nolan, potential, just because there's some questions about, it's not bad guy questions. It's not, oh, he's got this stuff off the field and arrest. It's none of that. It's just maturity questions is it kind of what people have a concern over. Some of the things he said at A&M and why he went to Ole Miss, things like that. It's like, dude, give me that guy. It's the defensive line. Give me that guy, man. You can have your maturity questions at quarterback and stuff like that. That dude, all you people listening right now, if you have not gone to YouTube and just consume as much Walter Nolan video as you can. And man, that's the guy. I can't get enough of it, man, just because I'm not kidding, Lo. He's in the SEC and he is lifting these guards and just chucking them at the quarterback. And you're just seeing this mess of bodies. He's so fun to watch. So those are like, yeah, that's the guy, man. Like I said, everyone's excited about Kenneth Grant because, Harbaugh nicknamed him the mutant and he's a Michigan guy. And then you got, like I said, Derek Harmon, who came from Michigan State to Oregon and had an awesome year, led the nation in pressures from the interior. But it just, I think you know what I'm talking about, right? When you see something.
That it factor that you say, okay, jumpy gathers, the forklift, just, when you see a guy that's playing like that, I'm going to check out Walter Nolan and get off this pod, and I want to see what he brings. But for you, a guy to jump out off the screen to you, and you talk about a physicality that has a little communication problems, that he speaks in a certain way, or just says what's on the top of his head, and people look at him that way. Go get him. Bring me that guy. I want a guy with the edge. I want a guy that believes that the guy in front of me, I'm going to whip his ass, and there's nothing he can do to stop me. I want that guy on my team because, my head coach, by the way, is Harbaugh. Hey, Walter, come in. Let's go in my office. No one really comes in Harbaugh's office. Walter, why don't you come in here? You don't think Harbaugh's hey, what are you going through? Harbaugh's he's a genie. I mean, this guy knows how to push buttons and get guys to play for him. He knows, hey, I'm going to take this guy under my wings. I know he's a little rough around the edges, but you know what? I'm going to make this guy a diamond. So you don't want Walter? Hey, Walter, look at this team. You don't think Sunday morning, Harbaugh, come on, let's go for a walk, Walter. Hey, this team, they passed you. They thought you're Walter, go get him. Go get him, right. Walter.
Cut him loose. So it's Zabel, it's Nolan, it's Colston Loveland. I can close my eyes and see Amari and Hampton at running back. I think edge would be interesting. I don't, the maturity questions for Nolan are one thing that I don't think is an issue. I don't think the situation with Mike Green's a different deal. If the edge slides and the two situations he had off the field, one in high school, one at Virginia, why he was dismissed and ended up at Marshall. Like, I don't know if that's the kind of guy that the Chargers typically take. Maybe they would. He's an incredible edge. So that's one. And then there's Ezeiruaku out of Boston College, who it's interesting because depending on the game you pull up, I got into 3 games, and like the Missouri game was the first one I watched, and I was like, ooh, it's not what's everyone talking about. And then I can't remember the other game I watched, but I was like, okay, now I get it. Super bendy, super explosive off the edge, and edge is something that is a premium. The Shamar Stewart, I don't quite get. He blew up the combine, all the athletic numbers. He's a complete physical freak, but I don't know, man. It's like I want a guy that's got more than 4 career sacks, that's doing better than 1.5 sacks. I don't care about the pressures and all that. It leads me to believe like he ain't seeing it, or he's running by it, or he can't redirect. He's getting in the backfield, and then you don't know what to do when he gets back there.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Money. I'm one of those guys that's different. I'm kind of within your same sphere. Everyone says, give me a pass rusher that comes off the edge, that can bend and does stuff. Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. But I'm telling you what, you give me an interior guy that can disrupt, that can really disrupt, that's athletic and can throw guys around and get to the quarterback. Give me that guy, because the quickest, the straight line is the quickest way to that quarterback. Quarterback's right there. Fastest way is a straight line. It's not a going around an angle. So if you got someone that's like that, you give me a pass rusher that's speed. All I got to do, I don't have good guys in the middle. Quarterback steps up, and those guys outside, they're non-existent, because you chase them around the hoop and you say, look, quarterback step up, stay to that thing. You got the clock. 1, 2, 3. You know he's there now. Just step up, and now you're going to help your tackle. So give me a guy that can beat you in the middle from jump. And now that quarterback has nowhere to go. Now he has to run into the edges. He has to continue to drop back. So give me a guy. And that's why the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, was so dominant. It wasn't the outside. It was the inside interior linemen, what they were able to do to Mahomes and other quarterbacks, even what they did to the Commanders, getting him off his spot. And now he's running out of the pocket right from jump. Usually those pass rushers, they make the quarterbacks boom. Okay, it's a space now between that guard and tackle, and I'm out. Guard and center, and I'm out. And the quarterback can still throw his eyes downfield. He can still step up. When you have a guy that beats you in the middle, it puts the quarterback in dire straits from the jump.
Yeah, and I think, and then again, this is an exercise we've talked about repeatedly. If you take, what's the gap? And I know it's a very deep defensive tackle class, incredibly deep, and that's why, when it comes to tackles, I'm like, I love Nolan. I feel like I can find comps to some degree for, or feel kind of good about, all right, if you don't get Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon, and then you kind of get to that next level of defensive tackles, the Shamar Turners, the Joshua Farmers with all that length, the freaking Mothra-like wingspan, like that sort of stuff, the Alfred Collins. I'm just kind of going through the list of all the guys here. I can see that. Like, Nolan to me is the one outlier there. Tight ends, I'll tell you what, man, I have not heard him talked about a lot. He was early in the process, but then he just kind of fell behind. Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo is that second fiddle, and then because of what he did at the Combine, a lot of people started getting juiced about Terrence Ferguson. Man, I'm telling you right now, my guy, Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green, and he had some juice coming in because he led. And look, it's not like I'm giving you some super sleeper that's going to be taken in the 7th round. I think this guy could end up being 2nd round, 3rd round tight end, but he's not being mentioned in that grouping with Taylor and Arroyo. And there's something about him. There's a reason why he's slipping it. He's kind of tight. He's almost squatty a little bit at tight end. Tight ends, you think about the Mike Gesicki's and the volleyball players and the George Kittles, all this length and this. And Fannin's just got kind of this weird body where he's sort of thick-legged. He almost reminds me a little bit of Ron Say, the Penguin, man, where he just had that thick trunk, and he's just a little tight down there, and it looks kind of weird. But, man, Bowling Green played both Penn State and Texas A&M last year. Man, Fannin, watch that Penn State game. He put it on Penn State. I mean, put it on them. And that is a team that's got more athleticism on their defense than almost – and same with A&M. They bring in athletes, man. They always do. They always have. And as I was going through, like our friends at Guilty of Charge, they like Mitchell Evans, so I'm watching all of his stuff. And everybody's talking about Mason Taylor, and I like Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor looks great. I got no problem with that. I just don't think he'll be there at 55. Arroyo's super athletic, but something about Fannin just jumped out at me, man. The competitiveness, hey, man, I know I'm Bowling Green, and I know I'm coming into this freaking whiteout of Happy Valley, and I'm going to stick it to you guys. And you could just see it in the way he played and how he fought for every extra yard and how he was their entire offense. And they're freaking leading Penn State in the 3rd, 4th quarter. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, give me a guy like that. It reminds me about just like back in the day, when you watch an underdog, a la Marshall Faulk played at San Diego State, when you saw him play against the big schools, and you say, oh my goodness, you knew it was special. And it's something about those underdogs. And, Fresno State, I remember being there and playing against, bigger teams, playing against SC and Willie McGinnis, and you're playing against Willie McGinnis and all these guys that people are talking about. It's going to be top 5 picks. And you knew, and it is, you're like you said, Money, it's when you're seeing these guys you're talking about, I remember being in that same position, and you're like, okay, everyone's giving these guys there because SC, because they're the big boys. It gives you that extra juice,
right?
Especially if you know you belong. See, a lot of guys cower down in that moment, and now you're talking about fanning this guy saying, you know what? Put me in the game, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to hammer you guys. I'm going to run. And he knew that he could do that. And when you play against a team like Penn State with all the athletes and guys going to be first round, and you see him perform like you're talking about, that's want to. That's want to, and that's knowing that you can.
Yeah, and I think, to me, again, the coach put it best at the owners' meetings. He's like, what are there, 256 picks in this draft? 256. We got 10 of them. Chances are every player you ask us about is going to be someone we're playing against. It's just the way it works. So we can get excited about all these different players. I think the question was about Colston Loveland and how great it would be to get him back on the roster and someone he's familiar with and stuff like that. And he's like, again, 256 picks in the draft, 32 teams. We've got 10 of those 256 picks, right? 2.5% of them. Probably not going to be on our team. Whichever name you throw at me, there's a very, very, very good chance not going to be on the team. But this is the time where we can dream. And you can just and for me, it's kind of, I bring up Fannin because everyone's talking about how Mason Taylor, Arroyo, maybe not going to get to 55. Kind of that Omari and TreVeyon Henderson, not going to get to 55. So I'm starting to think all right, you can't take every position with 22, right? You're just not going to do it. So who's going to be there? I think Fannin would be there at 55. I think there's a very good chance that you can get your tight end there. And him, along with Will Dissly, I'd feel really good about, man. I know he's taken some incoming for level of competition, all that sort of stuff. He's a Bowling Green guy. He's not Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame. He's not Arroyo from Miami. He's not Loveland from Michigan. He's not Tyler Warren from Penn State. But, man, I love the guy. I do. That was the other guy that, those are the two guys that I've already talked about a little bit, but really, really jumped out in watching over the weekend. Fannin and Nolan. And it's not, like I said, I'm talking about the number one prospect in the nation when he was in high school and the number one producing tight end in college. It's not like there's a secret there, but if that's their 1 and 2, that's 22 and 55. Whew, I'm feeling pretty darn good about things, man. Feeling pretty darn good about things.
Hey, I love it. I love that you're fired up about Walter Nolan. I can't wait to, watch a little tape. So if Walter's there, and
that'd be one.
If the kids from the offensive lineman that could play all 5 positions.
Oof.
Where are you going, Money? Money, I had to put you. I see. Hey, that's I made you shake your head. Where are you going, Money? Where are you going?
Man, I get it. This is the sad part, right?
Selfishly, okay. Give me
Jesse. You're too good.
Give me your selfish pick, and then give me what you should do, though.
Yeah, I think to me it's like Jesse Minter's just too good. Mike Elston's too good. They're too good at coaching up that defensive line. It's like you saw what they did last year with Tier Tart and Poona Ford, and it's like, we'll get you a guy in the second round, and you'll coach him up, and he'll be great. I'm going to give Greg Roman, Gray Zabel, and that offensive line and just get that thing right so we can get right. I think that's
understood.
But selfishly, if you ask me selfishly, what would I do? I would, man, I want to get Nolan out there, and I just want to watch him, man. I want to watch him lift guards up and I want to watch him lift up Creed Humphrey and just throw him into Patrick Mahomes' chest, and just I want to see it because he's going to be it's going to click, man. Whatever the issues were that people have with him, and I don't even know what they are, but it didn't look like he had much issues at Mississippi, at Ole Miss, man. So yeah, I think that's, like I said, there's that grouping. I think there's 4 players, and I think one of them, would be there. I think between Zabel, Loveland, Hampton, and Nolan, and I think then you got to put Harmon and Grant into that mix as well. The receivers, I watch the receivers too. I love the receivers, but I shouldn't say that. I really like the receivers, but kind of watching them a little bit more, I'm like, do I think these guys are better than Ladd? Do I think that like that when they come in, they're the number one? Or could I still see Ladd being the number one? It's like if I'm going to take a receiver in the first round, I want to know, man, they're the one. They are the number one in this offense, and I just don't know if it's there this year. I don't know if that player is a one, is a Malik Neighbors, is a Rome Odunze, is a Marvin Harrison Jr., is a Brian Thomas Jr. from last year. I just don't know if we have that this year. I think every one of these, like the issue with T-Mac is the speed. The issue with Golden is, he ran a 4.29, but it doesn't look like it. And out there on the field, and is he really an outside receiver? Burden looks like a slot only. The Higgins, possible. Like people are excited about Higgins. He's starting to run up a little bit, but not necessarily the most diverse route tree. And it's like, I would just go ahead and wait on the receiver. Like I don't think that's where you got to go. I would much rather do the tight end, the dominant back, the dominant O-line, the dominant D-line instead of, and Ezeiruaku could be that guy at 22. I'd be fine with that too at the edge, and that's, because you have to get younger in that room with Khalil Mack and Bud Dupree. You have to figure that out. I'm rambling. And we've gone a long time here.
Hey, I love it. I think the listeners love it too, man. It's always good to do this. Like you said, this is that wish list. This is the time that, like Harbaugh said, hey, look, we're only getting 10 of those, 250 some guys getting drafted. So this is the time why not? Think about, hey, if this guy's available, why not take him? And I think the listeners, they enjoy that too, because trust me, they watch college ball. They would like to know what who's going to be the guy if it's there. And so guys like, man, what's wrong with me dreaming? So everyone is there. I love it, Money. I love that when you start rambling. I love when you start saying, hey, this guy, and then you start, but it's tough here. I'm like, wow,
it is, man.
Because you watch. That's because a guy that's vested in not just the Chargers, but has vested time in watching what these young men can do and seeing who can wreck the game on either side of the ball. And hell, that's what we want to know. We want guys that can wreck it on either side of the ball. Offense, I want a guy that's going to go out there, offensive line like Joel Alton, just friggin', you watch the big feet, 6'6", guy able to 6'8", be able to dance like he's able to do. You watch, okay, I got a Zion guy that come off, and when he's blocking, pancake a guy. On either side of the ball, you want guys that can impact the game on a high level. So you're looking at these guys and saying, wow, if we get this young fella, this is what this guy can do and what he's going to bring to the game. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Look, I think what the team needs more than anything, I'll wrap with this, unless you got more, Lo. What the team needs more than anything is explosiveness. They've got the floor. This team has the floor. I think what they need is a little bit of ceiling, right? They need a little bit of that, like you said, can wreck a game in a play, and it's like Poona Ford, awesome, Mr. Consistency. Can you find that, like you said, Jalen Carter style player, that interior lineman, that Fletcher Cox that can really wreck a game? Chris Jones from the interior. Like they need to find same thing on offense. You've got the steak. Can you get me the sizzle? You got Joe Alt, you got Rashawn Slater, you got Najee Harris, you've got Will Dissly at that blocking tight end position. Can you get me that Sam Laporta? Can you get me that, Brock Bowers? Can you get me the explosiveness, that receiver? And I don't know if that player's in this draft, that explosive receiver is in this draft, but like Fannin at tight end, like I said, or Ferguson at tight end in the third round. If you wait an extra round, maybe you pick him up. Like just get that explosiveness, get that TreVeyon Henderson, the running back. Like just don't let him get the edge, man. If he does, we're in big trouble. Like things like that. I just feel like that's the one thing that this team really needs. And a guy like Gray Zabel can do that at the guard position, can open those lanes up and can give Justin Herbert that extra second to get Mike Williams downfield on those 50-50 balls, things like that. So that's a lot of rambling. I was a mess today.
I love it. I love it. Hey, keep being a mess. I love it. And I'll tell you right now, if it's there, I'll tell you where they're going to go. And it's not in the first pick, but if they get the solid guy on the offensive line, but it's going to be tight end. You have to address that position. They give Herbert that, hey, I need a safety blanket for this guy. We got good receivers, can beat some great receivers, but you don't have a guy that you can come to and win right now at the tight end position. So it's going to be tight end.
Yeah, I think so. And I just think I don't think either of those guys make it to him at 22. And that's why I think it's more realistic to start digging into your options in the second or the third round where you can find them. What was George Kittle, 4th rounder? Travis Kelce, 3rd rounder.
Right.
What was and look, each of them had sort of, issues, not like crazy issue. Like, Travis Kelce was thought to be what? Immature. He's kind of a goofball and he's immature. Right. And that was sort of the word on him out of Cincinnati, and slips to the 3rd round and becomes arguably the greatest pass catching tight end in the history of the game. That's sort of like what I'm saying with the Fannin thing is it's like, hey, a little tight, looks weird. Looks kind of weird when you're watching him run around. And it's like, okay, that's fine. We'll figure it out. The production's there. Seemed like it wasn't too tight for Penn State and Texas A&M. So I'll do a better job of getting this thing organized next week. Lowe's wearing the Hall of Fame polo. He's a Hall of Famer. I'm wearing a freaking Cowboy Bebop t-shirt. Shows you the difference between the two of us.
You make my job easy, bro. I love you, bro. I love doing this show with you. You're awesome, brother.
We'll do it again
next week, brother.
All right, man. Well, enjoy your time in your fancy hotel. And you know what? Quick pro tip. As someone who's got to travel a lot, that lavender spray, the lavender chamomile spray that the Westons leave next to your pillow that say help you sleep, works. It works. Maybe it's a placebo. Okay. I don't know. I think it's called This Works is the name of the brand. But I struggle to sleep in hotels, and I started using that, and out like a baby, man.
I'm gonna take your advice, brother. This works. I'm gonna do it.
There we go. All right, man. Appreciate all you. Leave a comment, rate, review, share. Happy to be back with you this week. Hopefully we'll be back next week as well. Big thank you to Lindsay for putting it all together. The music you heard at the start was my daughter, Preston. If you like that guitar riff, check her out. Preston Smith, Prestyn is how you spell her name. You can find her on Spotify and YouTube and TikTok and all that sort of stuff.
Money, hold on. I can't let you go. One more last one.
Yeah.
Who's coming out Saturday? Who's winning? Who's going to be the two teams?
I think Duke and it's Duke in Florida. I don't think.
Oh, really?
I think.
But Alabama, man, their bigs played well.
They did, but I think you just saw Duke pull away. They're so good. They're so smart, and they kind of figured. And look, Cooper Flagg didn't have a great game, and they still were able to overcome that. And I don't suspect
Duke is the team. I think Duke is a win, but I don't know. Florida's shooting guard.
I like Florida.
Florida had that little guard. He's
Clayton.
Tough. Clayton's tough. But that's gonna be a good one. That's the one. I think Duke take care of Houston. Houston just can't score with them. I don't think that Houston can get. But I think
their defense, man. So I called the Houston Alabama.
That's
game
what they
this
play.
Year.
Defense. They went on defense.
Man, can they play defense?
Whole team under 450. That's unheard of.
Yeah. Oh no, I called the Houston-Kansas game this year. That's what it was. I called Houston-Kansas. I called Alabama, Texas, and Alabama-Auburn this year. So I called games for 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four, which I'm very excited about. Rarely does that happen from what my slate is. So this year I ended up getting some really good games. But yeah, look, I love the story of Janai Broome. I love the story of Mark Sears, of these guys that are staying in college, man. Same with Houston. And you just talk about Cryer and all of these guys that are seniors or grad guys. It's like it's no longer freshmen that are just running around, with their hair on fire trying to figure it out. These are borderline professional basketball players that are out there executing at a high level. And then you got Duke, who's starting 3 freshmen, playing 4 heavy minutes, and they're freaking lighting it up. Like it's a really fun Final Four this year, even though it's all number 1 seeds. But yeah, I got Florida Duke, and I picked Florida to win in my bracket. And right now I'm in first place in our big company pool. So I'm hoping it works out that way. How about you, Lo? Who do you got?
Oh, man, it's just hard to bet against Duke because Duke, it's not just the one guy. It's not just the freshman who's friggin' just turned 18 in December. It's not just him. It's the others. So Duke, he doesn't have to be great. I watch him play, and when he has to take over, he can. But the pressure's not on him to go out and do everything. So I think they're a pretty balanced team. So I'm gonna go with Duke.
Yeah, that other Whitey Knipple, man, he can freaking shoot lights out. He is that's a good team, man.
Yeah. Tough. He's
tough.
He's gritty. He'll beat you up. I'm laughing. Yeah. I love his physicality.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Lo. We'll do it again next week. Enjoy your trip there, and wear that Hall of Fame polo with pride, because damn right you should be in there. We'll figure out how to make it happen.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. We'll be back next week.